Alright, stream is up.
Just gotta swap this. Yeah, let me check the stream real quick. I believe it is live now. Oh wait, hang on. It's repeating. Oh, hello, Rockin' Ellis. Rockin' Ellis, can you check to see if the audio is repeating now? Do you hear an echo from me at this moment? Not currently. Okay. So that was only happening on my end because I had the video open on my computer. Okay, good. All right, Tim, you can go take your leave. I got this.
All right.
All right. How's everybody doing today? Well, it's time for a second protagonist swap summary. So this was one that I was gonna do last Friday, but I could not because I just settled into my new job and it was really tedious the first week. I didn't get the chance to go and collect scans because scan collecting for these is difficult since I have to manually find every single scan from like every book out there under the sun. It takes quite some time. He's got this George Lopez meme. I actually don't know what that meme is. But I'm assuming it is quite funny. But this one is the protagonist swap summary for like the last video we did, which was the opposite of the first one. So the first one we did was the Space Marines from Space Marine 1, the cast of Space Marine 1, Titus Squad in Halo Reach. I am now discussing the scans that I used for the video involving Noble Team in Space Marine 1 instead of Space Marine 1 characters in Halo Reach. That should only be about like 20-ish claims to go over, probably less than that in terms of scans, since I'm going to be repeating some of them. Fortunately, you did. Yeah, no, it's here. Yeah, it should be right here on the channel, video-wise at least. Hang on one sec. You know, it's right here. Protagonist swap Spartans in Space Marine 1. No one seemed to watch it as much as the first one, ironically enough. But in any event, I'm just going to go over what scans I did have for the first sort of section. Since Samaj isn't here, I will ask, what about Rookie? No. Nothing about Rookie. Rookie doesn't even get a say in the matter. Also, Rookie never became a Spartan. So, The first source apparently I had to talk about was like, I guess the weight of the orcs, whatnot. Now you should be able to see this on my screen. I'm gonna show you like some of the sources I have. Basically, I explained that in the game, all of the characters in the Space Marine guidebook have like a given orc or given weights for the characters, orcs included. Little Gretchen's over here only weigh worth about 50 pounds. Boys and small boys are about 300 pounds. Shooter boys are 300 pounds. Bomb squigs are 150. Knobs are 750. I think the war boss himself is actually about 2 tons. But ultimately, the point is that all of the orcs only weighed about like 300 pounds. And I was just bringing it up to point out that the Space Marines are way bigger. So if I put the Spartans in their position, Spartans typically weigh anywhere from, God, like at least like 286 to around 300 pounds out of armor. If you put them in armor, they're around 500 kilos, which is like, if you took kilos and then converted it to pounds, at least at 500, that comes out as, hang on. Give me a moment. I believe it's, yeah, that's about 1,100 pounds. So they would weigh more than 3 times the weight, almost 4 times the weight of an orc. Their entire body weight. Orcs are heavy, very heavy. They're not actually. Orcs aren't that heavy if we're considering like the standard orc by what Space Marine says. I think they're supposed to be 300 kilos. I said this before in the first swap summary. I'm pretty certain they're supposed to be like 300 kilos and not 300 pounds. Because almost everything in Warhammer is measured in kilos. They use the metric system, so it doesn't really make sense that they'd have it in pounds. But it says pounds, so that's what we're going to go with, which means they basically only weigh as much as like the heaviest human bodybuilder. So they're going to get snapped like a twig. Additionally, for one of the second sources, I mentioned that I'd just be providing some of the scans from the Halo Encyclopedia about the Spartans' weight out of armor. I can go and get that. One moment. Someone was adding me. Yeah, there should be one right here. This is for the Master Chief's armor. So let me grab this encyclopedia right here. It's the 21st edition. I believe it's right here. Yeah, so Master Chief, according to this, weighs about 286 pounds, 130 kilos. This is out of armor. I don't know why they list it here without clarifying, but this is out of armor. The books have consistently pointed out that they weigh half a kilo or nearly, no, not half a kilo. What is it? Like half a ton, like 500 kilos or nearly half a ton consistently. I also provided these scans in the first, well, not this one in particular, but other scans regarding the weight of the Spartans being like 500, 400 kilos. So this is referring to what they are out of armor, and there are similar statements in the novels that corroborate this as well. So even the Spartans, like, out of armor weigh as much as the orcs do with all their armor and all their weapons, which is a little nuts. I thought it would actually be, I thought they'd weigh significantly less. That would make more sense as the European master, that is the big E, would make the inferior measuring system. So the armor is like 700, 900 pounds. No, the armor is, well, actually, wait. Is that how much? It's more like 800 to, or 881 to 1100, because the difference between 400 to 500 kilos is 880 pounds to 1,100 pounds. So that's approximately how much they'd be weighing, which means they actually weigh as much as Nemiroff does. Funnily enough, like if I go over here and check this, I believe the Nemiroff's weight is listed in here somewhere. Hang on. I know he's in here. Oh wait, no, is he at the front? Please don't tell me he's at the front. Where is he? He's literally... Oh! He's at the end of the orc section. Yeah, he weighs only 1,200 pounds. Yeah, so the final boss of the game, the Chaos Lord Nemiroff, is 1,200 pounds. So he weighs slightly more than a Spartan in Terminator armor. Terminator armor. Half a ton is 11,000 pounds. Is 1,000 pounds. I'm remembering stuff right. Yes, allegedly. Allegedly. Now, let me get to the third one I said. So, I said, provide the Space Warhammer Space Marine guidebook scans with the Space Marine's weight. I've kind of already shown this one before, but this is just to corroborate that, like, Space Marine weights, even in the scenario, was like 750 consistently. That's for Titus. There's also ones here for Sidonius, who's also 750. Leandros is also 750. They're all 750. They're all supposed to weigh as much as Titus does, or not as much as Titus does, as much as each other, and as much as a orc knob, which I believe is right here. And this is consistent with the statements they make about the guidebook. In the same guidebook about the knobs, they put the knobs on the same exact level of the Space Marine, that only the orcs who can combat the chieftains or can fight the chieftains, or eventually grow up to the stage where they can fight the chieftains, only those orcs are strong enough, like muscle mass wise and weight wise, to be at the same weight range as a Space Marine. So you're saying that he has hollow bones? Who? What's up, guys? What did I miss? Nothing much. Hey, New and hey, Etsu. I'm just going through the scans that I talked about in the first in the second protagonist swap video. I did a video where I was protag swapping the Noble team, the Halo Reach Noble team, and I was putting them through the events of Space Marine 1. And I made a lot of claims about a lot of research that I did, so I am showing all of the scans that I used in the video. Nemiroff? Yeah, I guess Nemiroff is hollow bones, because technically his Terminator armor would be making up most of that. Man, if we end up in 40k, we need to become orcs so we can just enjoy life. I don't think being an orc entails enjoying life as much as you think it does, because you could end up as a fucking Gretchen. I thought he'd be weighing around a ton. Well, technically he does. If he... What? No, actually, I think it's 2,000 pounds to weigh a ton, because 1,000 kilograms or 1,000 kilos is a metric ton. And kilos are usually like, I want to say like 50% larger than pounds. I thought he'd be weighing around a ton in Terminator armor. I'm pretty certain that he should be weighing a ton in Terminator armor. I've already said this before. I'm pretty sure the guidebook meant to put it in kilos. But even if it was in kilos, it technically wouldn't matter. They'd all weigh less. That sounds nice. See if you found something interesting to use in this. Yeah, that's stupid. 2,000 pounds is a ton. I know. That's why I was sitting there having an existential crisis when I was going for the guidebook for the first time. I was like, there's no fucking way. There's no way this says pounds. What kind of heretic? I mean, I prefer if it said use pounds, but it doesn't. All of it uses the metric system, so I assume the metric system would be involved. And then, lo and behold, it wasn't. That's how I knew this book was from a heretic. Additionally, there's also some sources I provided about the in the Iron Snakes novel about the orcs being able to go through I believe it was Space Marine body armor. Or not their body armor, but their power armor. Let me see if I can find Yes. So there are a few here. It's kind of hard to get my hands on these. This is in the battle during the Iron Snakes novel, where there's a couple different Ultramarine soldiers fighting. You can see even from this example where there's like it's sort of like an orc. I believe it's an orc knob comes into contact with one of the what's it called, Space Marines, and just basically constantly keeps like slamming down on his helmet until he crushes it. So like if you have sufficient enough force, you can just break through the armor. It takes a good bit of time. As you can see on the page, he also gets shot with some bolter rounds, and those are generally more effective at cutting through the armor. There are other examples in some of the other pages of orcs consistently like breaking through the armor, but it takes them like time to do it because they have to keep throwing their hands at the armor, and that's just like super tedious because they're like throwing the little like man-made axes at it from one orc to another, and most of the Space Marines will usually just kill them by the time they finish throwing like 2 or 3 blows. Smoking Winston weighs more than that, probably does. We see that in Space Marine 2. We see what in Space Marine 2? I also had a couple claims I made about the Space Marines, or about the Spartans basically being masters of all weapons. Let me see if I can go find some of those. I have one right here that I can provide. It's the very obvious one. This is from the 2011 edition for the Halo Encyclopedia. So if anyone's like curious, it just says they're masters of all weapons, and then it just shows examples all over the pictures of like various weapons they're expected to use. The point that this tries to make is that essentially, like whenever a Spartan is in the battlefield, and what I was claiming in the video was that no matter where a Spartan is, they will constantly pick up weapons and learn how to use them, regardless of whether they've understood them effectively or not. There was another source that was going to provide from Silent Storm, but I didn't have enough time. And it was from, I believe it was either from Naomi or Grace, probably Naomi, where Naomi, as a 15-year-old Spartan, was able to just intuitively understand how the Covenant Carbine worked after seeing it function like one time, even though she had never taken a class or been given any instruction manuals or told anything about how the weapon functions. She didn't know that it had tungsten rounds. She didn't know that it fired at like supersonic speeds or anything. She didn't know any details or statistics about the weapon. She just logically concluded how the weapon works and its functionality, how it needed to be reloaded, how it needed to be maintained, and was like, yeah, I can use this. This shouldn't be difficult. It's not really any different from a BR. Oh, a bomb managed to kill a Space Marine and shrapnel went through his helmet. Oh yeah, no, it's like they kill him with a computer bomb, I believe, because the Space Marine in question, which he's also a Primaris, he's a Primaris Marine. He gets his face blown open with it's not like a backpack grenade, but there's a traitor Marine or a traitor guardsman holding a computer that has a bomb attached to it. We can't even see the bomb, so it would have to be noticeably smaller than the computer itself or inside the computer, and it kills him. Granted, it could have like a high explosive package, but like it didn't affect any of the other Space Marines. And they were only standing a couple feet behind him, so we have to assume the radius was very small, and it still killed him. Like, it just blew him away. Yeah, there all are some other statements, I think, as well as the operations manual, but I think for all intents and purposes, I guess that should be enough. There's more that I could use, but that's probably enough for now. Let me go on to the second one, which is oh yes, this is about Spartans having like technique mimicry and being martial arts masters. This is one of my favorite ones. This is the one that I talk about a lot. This is from the Spartan the official Spartan field guide manual. I call it the Spartan 4 guide because it does talk about a lot of the information that comes out of Spartan 4s, and it basically explains that like every single Spartan 4 is trained in this, which we would assume normally that like other Spartans are as well, because Spartan 4s are just trained using the same curriculum that 2s and 3s were. They're just given different martial arts styles. So they're taught Aikido to deal with brutes, they're taught Jiu-Jitsu to deal with insurrectionists, and they're taught Krav Maga to fight elites. And they also train with other Spartans in order to develop new fighting techniques. And it basically says it counts as an enhanced muscle memory that allows them to absorb and memorize techniques really easily. So when they see other Spartans fighting, they can just perceive whatever it is they're doing, and they just start understanding how to use those techniques on the fly. Which is weird because we have the Amazon secret level where the Marine just juggernauts his way through the armor like an armored truck. It's not that weird. It's pretty consistent that Space Marines die to like small building level explosives. The Amazon secret level, just to put that in perspective, like every Warhammer fan says that is how Space Marines should be portrayed. They are correct in the sense that that's what a Space Marine should be. They are inaccurate in saying that is what a Space Marine is. It is objectively inaccurate. That is how a Space Marine is portrayed. That is a very incorrect assessment. Space Marines do not run through tanks in the novels. They usually die when they come into contact with a tank, and they never engage with a tank unless they have a dreadnought or they're in a Terminator armor. And even then, if they're in a Terminator armor, they need specific weapons. Space Marines do not fuck with tanks in the lore. That is completely inaccurate. The reason why it's being portrayed that way in Amazon's case is because they want to cater to what the fans believe. But what the fans believe is wrong. What they believe is objectively wrong and probably shouldn't be purported. Now, if you wanted to rewrite it, that'd be different. I think that would be fine. I think Space Marines should be stronger than what they're portrayed to be. Like, they definitely should rewrite how they're presented, just not in the current Warhammer lore, just like maybe like a reboot to certain iterations of Warhammer. Mangler, listen, Vegeta can go Super Saiyan 3 in Daima. That's a very, very rusty car in secret level. That looked more like a tank. Whatever. I didn't watch anything beyond the first 3 episodes. I think myself and like everyone else in the server just like stopped watching Daima for a while. So for me, it's weird. It's probably just Titus being that strong. I mean, I want to believe that, but like Titus isn't presented as any stronger than any of the other Space Marines. Oddly enough, like he's comparable to the other people who are just regular premise Marines. Like, yes, he's exceptionally strong and very lucky and very skilled, but he's often got the same stats as other Space Marines in the guides. He does the same feats as other Space Marines in the guides. Like, yes, he has a name, but like, he doesn't do anything differently after you evaluate all of his feats. Daima is getting better. Oh, it's too late to get me back on the train. Anyway, let's go back to the next one. So some scans about Fall of Reach from... Oh yeah, I made some claims about the Spartan shields basically stopping most like melee attacks. So like if a orc tried to attack them, it wouldn't really work. I already presented this source before, but I'm going to do it again just because like this one kind of like matters, and because the shield would stop any sort of inconveniences. So this is a scene in the Fall of Reach when Master Chief is getting the Mark V Mjolnir armor equipped for the first time, and he basically tries to run his right hand over his left arm, and he basically encounters resistance a centimeter above the surface of the armor. She says later, or Halsey says later, that it basically tapes it down to under a millimeter so that you don't lose the ability to hold or manipulate that stuff with your hands. So it's not that it's a centimeter above his armor, it's a millimeter above his armor. So unless you have something that is like a millimeter, like thin, Like something very, 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 very thin, extremely thin, something you wouldn't be capable of holding with your physical hands. You can't actually slip past the armor. It's impossible. You have to directly go through the shield. I incorrectly stated in the first protagonist swap that it doesn't actually trigger on melee attacks. It triggers on things that have incoming projectile velocities above a certain threshold, like 40 miles an hour or something. That's not true. No, actually, if you just throw anything at the Mjolnir armor, anything at all, and it is above a millimeter in diameter, it will trigger the shields. The orcs are not wogging enough. You spelled not wrong. Gosh, why the fuck do the orcs sound British? Technically, everybody in 40K sounds British. It's like the weirdest thing. Like everyone in 40K is British, or some version of like the English accent that is originated from Britain in some form or fashion. There is some kind of like Australian, or in some cases, I think a little bit of Scottish, like English accents. No American ones, funnily enough. It was intentional. It probably was intentional. There's no way they all conveniently have the same accent. For different characters of different races and even slightly different variants of the same accents. That was absolutely an intentional decision. What's strange, because Big E is from Turkey. Yeah, where's the Turkish representation? The Emperor's over here like, I'm from Turkey. Also the Emperor, I won't speak with a Turkish accent. The hell? I was referring to me spelling mot. Oh. Okay, I just watched the secret level. Space Marine doesn't run through the tank. What happens is he runs, smashes through a car, then jumps on top of the tank and throws a grenade inside. Oh, I thought you were talking about the yeah, no, there's a second tank in the level, but like I assumed the thing he ran through was a tank. But like if that's a car, yeah, I mean Space Marines can technically run through cars. That's not like inaccurate. I was more so referring to stuff like the bolter round doing nothing to his helmet, because that is a bolter pistol in the cultist's hand, and it doesn't do anything to his helmet. That's extremely inaccurate. Bolter rounds will put a chunk through a Space Marine's body. Mangler has wheels. I see. I'll have to go back and rewatch it again. I just assumed it was like a light tank. Anyway, for this one, I could not go back through the rest of the Orc codexes because I could not find the 3rd edition codex that I had. And also because whenever I read novels about the Orc, of which I've read 2 or 3 novels, and I've read like 4 different codexes for the Orcs, they never actually state what their weapons are made out of. You just see that they're made out of scrap metal. So, like, if I were to just show you, like, visuals of what the Orcs' weapons are, I would just explain to people that, like, their weapons only really have sufficient attack potency comparable to what they've been shown, since we don't have a clear gauge on what the materials are other than, like, random scrap. Granted, they can damage Astartes' armor, but it does take them a bit of time to get through the armor, usually like dozens of strikes from a bunch of different orcs that are, you know, half the weight of the Space Marine, constantly slamming their arms on the Space Marine's the same point in the armor until it breaks down. That's more like just slamming like a... This is the equivalent of like me slamming like a really heavily mated like metal bat against a piece of metal. Even if I'm not strong enough to destroy that metal, I'm gonna dent it eventually if I keep swinging the bat against the metal. It's eventually gonna break down. The fuck is going on? Oh, I'm just explaining some of the scans that I used for the protagonist swap. So I did this a few weeks ago where I did a protagonist swap, right? For what was it? The Space Marine 1 cast, and I put them through Halo Reach. And then I thought, well, I did a lot of research for this because I had to read like 50 books or something. not 50, but like 20 or so for Warhammer, 30 something for Halo, and I decided, well, I'm going to gather a bunch of scans and I'm going to show people what I'm talking about. And I did the opposite then. I did the Halo Reach cast in Space Marine 1, and that video is already on the channel, so you can go see that if you haven't already. Otherwise, you won't know what I'm talking about. And in this video, I'm just explaining, or this stream, I'm just explaining the scans that I've been talking about. You might not have seen it, though, because I'm kind of like, I just turn on my camera to show like the source material, like right here, for example. Like this is all the sources that I've been providing. Usually, it kind of depends, though, depending on what I'm talking about. It's usually a little bit more Halo oriented than Warhammer. That and a lot of the stuff that I read from Warhammer is like digital copies and things that I've purchased. Also, hello, Jay. You know what else is a light tank? A car. Oh, snap. A car is not a light tank. No, a car is like a metric ton at best. The most light tanks, like real light tanks, are like 10 to 20 pounds, or 10 to 20 tons. A car is typically in the 1 ton range. Probably weighs more than tank. Now we wait for Didac versus the Noble team. That's never happening. I don't know where you came to that conclusion. 700 books? No. Did you use any post-heresy? Yes, I did. Brothers of the Snake, literally everything post-heresy that I used. Well, actually, almost all the examples that I used were post-heresy. Brothers of the Snake, Warriors of Ultravar, Nightbringer, a bunch of novels from Gaunt's Ghost as well. So many different examples of like Space Marine stuff. Like, also Space Marine 1 is a post-heresy, and post-heresy doesn't change anything because the heresy books were written at the same time that the post-heresy ones were. They're also like, I want to say a good 20% of the entire series, or like 15%. So they're like the largest amount of any given piece of Warhammer media in one specific area, or one specific era, I should say. What is this? Oh, yes. Let me go and get this statement. So I did talk about how in the scenario, it's basically my computer. So I did talk about how in the scenario, there's actually an extended ammo capacity for most of the Halo weapons. So normally there's only about, like, I want to say like 40 as depicted in Reach, like 40 in the stock model, but in the mission Nightfall, you get about like 102-ish rounds for the Magnum, which is generally what this is showing. And then for the sniper rifle, you get about 56. I think I said 4 to 60, so it's generally in that range, leaning more towards 60. So for the typical person on Noble Team, they would have like dozens and dozens and dozens of rounds for a lot of their weapons. 11, honestly. It's been years. Is Gil resurrected in S Marine 1? I don't know if he's resurrected by the exact time period that SM1 is around. He's resurrected for certain, like 300 at the most 200 years away from the end of the 42nd millennia. It's just that a lot of stuff in 40K, especially like earlier 2000s novels, are more so like, I want to say 300, 400 years from the end of the 41st millennium. So they're not quite where Gilliman coming back is. Plus, Gilliman's return kind of happened, I think, around, like, I want to say 2016, 2017, typically. I'm mad at Halo, or more to be specific, I'm mad that the Fall of Reach on hardcover is $300. Why would you be paying $300 for the Fall of Reach? Like, I got like the mass market paperback for like $10. You don't You don't have to pay $300 for the hardcover. Hello, Seville. Noble Team doesn't really have any weapons that can end orcs or chaos marines. You really didn't read the scenario, did you? Or any of the protagonist swaps. They actually have so many weapons they can kill. Like any UNSC weapon would be capable of killing an orc. Because most of the orcs don't even, like, in terms of their muscle mass and their weight range, don't even fit into the small building level range. And most UNSC weapons can not only, like, pierce Mjolnir armor, they can pierce elite shieldings and, like, reverse engineer Forerunner armor. So they can easily cut through an orc in, like, one shot. Anglican Space Marine breakdance, probably the Emperor's Children. If you ask them to, the Emperor's Children could probably find a way to breakdance. It'd have to be before they fell to Slanesh, then, because after the Slanesh stuff, they'd start doing some down bad, dubious stuff. I didn't buy it. I'm not that psycho. I just thought it was 300 because I thought that was bullshit. That is bullshit. It shouldn't really be 300. It's not even that valuable. So what are you guys doing here exactly? I'm just going through the source material like this and just basically explaining scans that I used for the protagonist swap. Because I had to read all of these novels and all these guidebooks. So I thought people would like to see what I was talking about. Because normally I don't have to do this much research for a protagonist swap. So I figured my effort had to be rewarded. Did you forget the Orc's magic? The Orc's magic doesn't really do anything. The WOG effect doesn't actually work like this subjective reality thing where they just warp everything into existence. It's just this collective energy that comes from their own form of, like, warp energy, called the Big Green. And all that does is it allows them to tap into their instinctive desires, their base urges as an orc to do the things that an orc already does. So if an orc wants to build something or wants to make a weapon, they just do it more efficiently. They're just more inclined to do that thing. It doesn't make it any stronger, doesn't really make it, like, shoot faster. It just means they do the tasks needed to get that process done. If that makes sense. Yeah, the belief system. Yeah, that's a massive misconception in the community. Like, the orcs do not, like, literally warp things into reality using the subjective beliefs. In fact, the orcs don't even understand how they're doing most of this stuff just because they've been pre-programmed to do so by the old ones. Where is the Bearer of the Curse protagonist swap? Yeah, that's when someone manages to find something that the Bearer of the Curse fits into. It's real. Yeah, it's about as real as the orcs want to believe it is. I get that, like, yeah, it's a real effect. It just doesn't do what people think it does. It does something different. Orcs used to be way more advanced before they got de-evolved. It's real to me. Yeah. Well, the orcs before they got de-evolved were essentially magic because their technology was so advanced they could effectively do whatever it is they wanted to do. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. I'm going on to the next source. So I was going to provide a source based on, I believe, the weight of the Razorback. Because I mentioned that Spartans could flip Razorbacks. And I had talked about how much it weighed. Oh, here we go. Oh, actually, it's 4.9 tons. That was 4.5. My bad. Basically 5 tons, but I don't remember the conversion ratio for that. So I was basically explaining in the video that Spartans can pretty easily lift one of these Razorbacks. And, well, I say lift, more like flip. Because in order to flip a object, you have to apply the mass of whatever the object is multiple times over because you're taking the object and you are applying essentially an accelerated lift by sending it into the air and spinning it around in a sort of, well, a spinning motion and momentum. So if I'm taking a 4.9 ton object, just getting it off the ground would require 4.9 tons of muscle mass at least, possibly more. To flip it into the air, I would need several times that kind of muscle mass just to send it flying. It's called Elden Ring, aka a holiday. I'm not going through Elden Ring. Average pursuer sweeps Space Marines and orcs. You mean like the pursuer from Dark Souls 2? Taken apart orc vehicles and found a box with an engine drawn in it, and it works as an engine. Yeah, because most things the orcs do, and most things the orcs build, they innately understand how to build those things. They just draw them or make them in the most childish, simplistic ways possible. Because every orc is genetically engineered to do a specific task. They don't understand how they're doing it. This is just how they're visually describing it. Also, most Imperium guardsmen have mentioned before that most orc technology is sound. They don't understand build a more efficient process. And the truth is that orcs don't really care about efficiency. They just want to know that something works, and that's all that matters. They're just too excited on that. Now, it had no parts in it. It definitely did. Everything they do has parts in it. Granted, a lot of the stuff they make constantly breaks down, so they constantly have to apply more materials and stuff on it. Mangler's getting warped by the warp? Never. Wait, am I actually losing my audio quality? Is that what's happening? All right. How about now? Can everybody hear me now? Why are you saying watch your jet? Is that supposed to be a play on like jet lag? Please tell me that has nothing to do with jet lag and it was for some other creative reason. Jet D's nuts? Yeah, never mind. That is a stupid question. Stupid question. Anyway, the next source I was providing was I had made a claim that Spartans can basically hear a pen drop in a sandstorm. I believe that's someone. I looked around for this statement originally, and I thought I made the mistake of going to the Halo wiki and read it. It's not very reliable. My Wi-Fi keeps disconnecting on my phone. It's a reference, Mangler? Well, it's a reference I don't understand, unfortunately. I'm not skilled enough. So, in First Strike, Fred points out that Spartans can hear pins drop in a sandstorm. That kind of hearing would be more than effective enough to get them through the scenario because they basically hear every single sound before it's going to happen. I pointed this out when I was talking about the squigs because the squigs basically have explosive bombs attached to themselves and they scream at the top of their lungs when they're running around before they kamikaze themselves. So basically, everybody was going to be able to hear them coming, and plus they also had motion sensors. I was just sourcing where I got that statement from. Now, if you guys are done with your jet lag nonsense, I'm going to go on to the next source. And any questions before I continue? No questions? No questions? No bitches? Interesting. Are you just gonna say my name like Mangler? Is there a follow up to that, like affirmation of my name, or you just saying the name? Give me your thoughts. Yes, no questions. All seem solved. Guys, like anytime you want to ask questions about this, it's not about like. Don't be afraid. Like if you're just curious, it doesn't even need to be. It doesn't even need to be about the subject. It could be about anything. Maybe Zim's gone somewhere. Oh no, Zim's in the restroom right now. He's he usually goes to the restroom in the morning, and he just leaves me here to stream. So I'm assuming he'll be back in like. Hold up one sec. Let me check how long we've been streaming. We've only been streaming for about 45 minutes, so he should be coming back. If he's not already back by now, he should be back in like 20 minutes. Okay, so no questions. I'll just move on to the next one then. Wait, no, my chat just reset. Oh boy. Pop up the live chat. There we go. I gave you one though. You just said Mingler. Zim is destroying the toilet as we speak. That's not a question. That is a statement. You were asserting a fact. You were not. You are not exploring your curiosity. I also made a claim about Spartans having, for my 12 source, about them having a smart link. Because basically their weapons would essentially link up with any of the stuff that they have. This is actually a function from the Halo 5 guidebook. This is a function of like most UNSC weapons, even like pre-war. So not just like, or not pre-Covenant War, but like pre the end of the war, right? And what the Smart Link essentially does is it allows like higher magnification, allows you to zoom through things, and it also confirms hits on targets. One of the things it does in Halo 5, but it would still be applicable to things prior to because they had the technology, is that when a Spartan shoots something, it basically tells them when they've actually hit a target or when they've killed something. And this is something that all of their weapons are technically capable of doing. And they can also use this with foreign technology, even things from the Covenant and things from the Forerunners, because their weapons are able to be, like, their Smart Link system from the Mjolnir system is able to scan into the weapon and basically unlock it. How does the bullets of the assault rifle affect the orc and their physiology? It just goes through their head and they die. Because most of the orcs can die to a standard, like, round going through their head. Now, if you leave an orc there and you like if you cut off an orc and you leave their head near their body, then like yes, there's a chance that they could reattach it. But most orcs can just die to conventional rounds to the head or the face, or just by shooting enough rounds to their head. Orcs have not only suffered like brain damage before by being shot through portions of their head, but like even even just getting like a laser to the face or things like that. So like enough kinetic or energy weapon can do that. A 7.62 isn't going to go through. No, a bolter round. Okay, so I've already explained this before, but like a bolter round isn't stronger than an assault rifle round in Halo. AR rounds have already shown that they can go through Mjolnir armor, which is made of like reinforced titanium A. That is stuff they put on starships. Like it's meant to stop like all conventional kinetic weapons, and the UNSC weapons can technically go through that. It was meant as a defense against the insurrection and other sufficiently advanced civilizations. That armor also has statements that it can stop artillery rounds, and weaker versions of that armor can stop explosions that can blow up large boulders. A 7.67 is just way stronger than 7.67. Like they call it a 7.67 because that is what the UNSC uses to classify their weapons, so you have an idea of what it is. It's not an indicator of how powerful it is. Additionally, a 7.67 by their round capacity would be like a 50 or a 70 cal. Whereas, like, if we're going by caliber range, even the bolter is only like classified as a 75 caliber round, but like it doesn't have feats of destroying anything like titanium or things beyond small building level. So it technically doesn't really matter that it's a 75 caliber because it doesn't have the penetrating force to support that. Also, shotguns in Halo are classified as 90 caliber rounds, and the shotguns that they use aren't even like 8 gauge shotguns or anything like that. They're like, actually, no, I think they are like a 10 gauge. And I don't know if you guys know this, but shotguns actually go all the way up to 1 gauges. A 6 gauge? Oh no, it's not a 6 gauge. Hang on one sec. I know for a fact it's not a 6 gauge. Yeah, it's an 8 gauge. Okay, so it is an 8 gauge. Yeah, so shotguns go all the way up to 1 gauge shotguns, and a 1 gauge shotgun, well, actually, even a 2 gauge shotgun is basically considered a grenade launcher, IRL. So if I were to pick up like a modern 1 gauge shotgun, it would have so much firepower that it would make a 50 cal look like a water pistol. That is a modern weapon we have. We just don't employ it because obviously a 1 gauge shotgun is too much. Emil uses a 6 gauge. Is that ever confirmed? Because I don't recall that being stated ever in the guides or any of the instruction manuals, and I have all of them. That wouldn't surprise me if he used a customized version of the shotgun. But overall, even the 8 gauge is considered a 91 caliber. So if we just say that things that have a higher caliber are just stronger than things that don't have a higher caliber, then we get into this like sort of fallacy position where we assume that like everything that has higher calibers are arbitrarily stronger than anything else, regardless of their feats. And all the caliber tells us is how the military, or I guess in this case the writers, classifies their weapons by a numerical system. It doesn't indicate how powerful it is. It only indicates how they exist in a hierarchy with respect to one another on that classification system. That's all it does. It just tells you how they classified it. In Guardians, his shotgun and MP is modified to hit harder. Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. Pretty much every other shotgun. Like I never messed around with his shotgun. I messed around with Linda's Nordfang and George's machine gun, but I never messed around with Emil's thing. But I wouldn't be surprised because everything from their customized weapons was stronger. Anyway, that was the source for that one. Let me go get this one. Hold up one moment. Yes, this was for a source where I Okay, now I'm going to try this again. So this is from the Fall of Reach Definitive Edition. Should be a few pages in here. In a sec. Oh, oops. Went a little too far. There we go. So I was basically making a statement that Spartans essentially don't make any sound as they travel. I believe this is a part of their traction system for the Mjolnir suit, they essentially move across the ground, no matter how fast they move, and there's never really any sound. Like when they travel from location to location, Spartans do not make noise, regardless of how quickly they're moving. I provided this just to point out that they could technically skip across certain portions of the scenario with the greatest of ease because no one's going to know where they are because they're not making sound. They also have like motion sensors. What about combating spores? You don't have to combat spores because neither do the Space Marines in the scenario. Their only goal was to basically stop the planetary defense gun from being taken over by orcs and also getting access to the experimental device. Additionally, stopping spores only really needs to happen within the next few hours. Most of the Space Marine reinforcements, I believe, arrive within the day. So even if there were more orcs, the orcs can just be annihilated pretty easily in that area. Also, spores can't grow in every environment. So, fun fact, if you read the novel, I believe it is it 15 hours? No, it's not 15 hours. It's the Knee Deep. The novel, the short story that follows 15 hours for the Imperial Guardsman novel, they actually explain how the orcs come out of the spores generally and how long the process takes, but also that orcs need a specific ecosystem for their spores to thrive. Like they usually need like I don't want to say like a Florida climate, but like a proper tropical climate. Otherwise, their spores cannot really effectively function on a lot of death worlds, but also like colder, significantly colder climates, sub-zero temperatures, areas that have like a lot of like really infectious disease are very bad for orc spores. That's why they prefer to grow in things like sewers, certain jungles that don't have like obviously like any sort of like microbes or bacteria that will eat the spores. They want to be in an area like that where the spores can thrive. So they need specific ecosystems. Usually, like most general ecosystems will work. But overall, the orc spores aren't really a responsibility of either the Space Marines or the Spartans, and they don't grow out of the spores immediately, nor do they even drop on the same spot, because a lot of the orc spores are also carried on the wind and are taken to airborne places. Sometimes they're left at the spot. It depends on what happens with the spores, and even then, it takes them, I think at the earliest, 5 to 6 hours, which is going to be like the length of the entire campaign. And at that point, Noble Team is going to be gone, so if they've killed an orc, they're never ever going to have to deal with those spores because they'll just be somewhere else. Bolters burn through spores passively. If they're using UNSC weapons, they don't have that. They typically don't need it. For what it's worth. That ends, well, when the Chaos troops show up, technically it also doesn't matter because Chaos troops will just go straight at the orcs anyway. And they'll be too busy having to deal with them. Plus, all of the guardsman-based areas will have probably purged those spores or done cleanup crews. Because usually, in 15 hours, they also tell you that when the orcs are actually killed, their bodies are scraped off the battlefield by guardsmen and are taken to like a foundry or a refinery where they're burnt. So even if they do fail to kill the spores, the guardsmen on the planet will just burn the spores anyway. That's assuming they could thrive in that environment, which I think they'll do fine, but it's not like their most optimal one, so their growth rate might be a little bit different. As far as oh yeah, this one I can get this one. Hang on, let me see if I can find it right here. I believe I was providing a statement for how fast Spartans move out of armor, because I was trying to point out that they could easily run across the battlefield. Where is it? Ah, here we are. Give me a moment. Just one moment. I honestly don't see Spartans pre-Halo 2 standing a chance. I kind of just explained why they all just stood a chance. Their weapons are stronger. Their armor is more powerful. The most of their armor functions are better, and they don't have to do any of the things that would be a problem for them. Just being the spores, if the orcs were able to grow, are only applicable if they just stand near the bodies of the orcs for 5 hours for no reason and let them grow out a bunch of spores and then just continue to waste ammo. Like, there's nothing really that the orcs bring to the table that would help, but I guess I can understand why you are having trouble understanding this, because you didn't watch the first protagonist swaps, which some of the people here did, to be fair. So, yeah, okay, here we go. It's a little bit faster than I expected. So the next source that I provided was just for just providing some examples from Halo: Fall of Reach of Spartans being able to move at least 34 kilometers an hour. I said 30. Technically, it's 34 because it's in, or 34 miles per hour because it's in 55 kilometers. This is also like a statement that's referring to Spartans when they're 15 years old and they don't have the Spartan Mjolnir armor. So logically, they'd be moving much, much faster. There are consistent statements that Kelly moves like 40 miles an hour, but or Kelly's statements being like either 38 or 40 miles an hour. But I find those statements to be inconsistent and also inaccurate, given not just this statement, but also the length of the war, because these statements are provided about the Spartans at the beginning of the war when they're only 15 years old and they're children. They've just gotten out of the augmentation process like a month ago, and they have no armor and they haven't trained their bodies, and they can already move as fast as a car. I would wager they'd be a lot faster. Plus, in the post-war era, there are direct statements of them moving as fast as like ghosts, like in Halo 5. And Tom also runs as fast as a warthog in the, Legacy of Onyx. So they can just run as fast as a car pretty easily. There's also like additional statements from the Halo Reach novel. Not Halo Reach novel, what am I saying? From the Halo Encyclopedia. Hold on one sec. Let me just... right here, of the sprint module basically giving them the ability to move in excess of 43 miles per hour, because it basically just stores energy from the stores up packets of energy from the downtime that they have, and essentially allows them to burst over like 40 miles an hour. So they can go well over the speed of like even 43. I said 40, but it's technically higher than that. So they could pretty easily just run across the battlefield silently with motion sensors, and they wouldn't have to fight anybody. But you also aren't taking into canon of orcs having their warp ability. If an orc sees a Spartan gun, they won't believe it'll kill them since they survive bolter-style rifles in their own. It wouldn't matter what they believe. So I've already explained this before, but that's not how the orc belief works. The orc belief does not create things, does not warp reality around their will. That is not what happens. So if you've read any of the orc WoG novels or the orc prophet of the WoG, we actually get an orc that is directly blessed from Gork and Morph, and he makes it clear that he has to look into the big green, and he has to get direct, he usually has to get direct insight from the orc And even the orcs point out that you can't just think of something and it happens. Like, you have to have the motivation and things to make it work, but you also need to have Gork and Mork. So orcs can't just think that something happens and that it does happen. That's not how that works. It needs to be well within their capability to do so. So if they just decide, oh, bullets don't hurt me, now they don't hurt me, like, that's not how that works. I can prove you're wrong with one example. No, you can't. I just provided you an example where it was incorrect. The Prophet of the Log example, like, that war boss in Prophet of the Log was directly blessed by both Gork and Mork. And he was considered an exceptional orc. He was both smart and strong. And even for the war bosses, he was exceptionally accomplished. He was like the head of the... I don't want to say the head honcho of the orcs, but he was top of the food chain. He was well above your average orc. And I would argue way more accomplished than your standard chieftain. Because he still beat another war boss pretty easily when he was a knob. I know knobs are technically capable of doing that, but like, he did it when the orc was like 2 or 3 times his size. And every orc in the scenario was like, man, this guy got bigger. Gaz? I don't believe... Might be Gaz. Hang on. Give me a moment. Yeah, no, Gaz... I don't think that's how you spell it. I think it's Ghaz. Yeah, Gazakol. Yeah, Gazakol directly was like blessed twice. He's an exception? No, he's not an exception. He explains partially how the log effect works, and he demonstrates how it works. Also, the orcs are just genetically engineered to do things a specific way. It's not because their technology, like, it's not because they warp reality around them passively. They just believe that they can do something because they've been genetically engineered to do that thing at an instinctive level. So they do that thing. Now, yes, they having a warp god in the big green known as Gork and Mork that can bless them, but that's not the same thing. Hold up a sec. What is it about Gazul? Gazakul? He's an orc war boss. Basically, is considered the prophet of the log. He stopped believing, but he knows it's real. So he just doesn't say anything. That's okay. So he said he stopped believing. He said, like, I don't believe in the gods anymore because they might not believe in me. But that's also because he loses belief in himself because he's not confident in what he's doing. That doesn't technically have anything to do with the log effect. That's his own self-confidence. Yes, the log effect directly inspires other orcs. You're correct. There is a charismatic effect that it has on them because it uses that collective warp energy to spread around to each orc, and it allows them to grow in size and get stronger and motivate other orcs. But that's mostly all it does. Yeah, he's debuffing himself. Yes, because the energy directly correlates to statistics amplification. But it's statistics amplification of the orc, not the orc weapons. Like, the orc can get stronger, but that's only primarily through the war boss. Like, normal orcs don't produce their own log effect. And they point this out that, like, only really, like, weird boys can channel the effects of the log effect, and generally that's not... Daka, enough said, unlimited ammo. Daka, that's not a good argument. It's the same argument I've heard for why people think that if orcs paint enough red on something, it'll become, like, fast enough that it'll just outspeed everything in the universe, but that's never been consistently proven. It's a great meme. But it's unfortunately not very true. What was the next one? Brand statements about food. No, I already provided all of these. Oh yeah, there's the instinctive statement. Yeah, let me go get those. Give me a moment. Here we are. Not just faster. Not faster than anything. Well, generally, when an orc paints something red or paints it blue or paints it yellow, You understand that, like, the orc mech boys that do that, they don't know why they're doing it. They've been programmed and engineered to make these things a certain way. Like, the mech boys have an innate understanding of engineering. They don't understand how it works, they just understand that it does. That does not mean they literally manifest it into reality. It just means on a subconscious level, they understand how the engineering works. They just can't consciously explain that to you or replicate that understanding. But because they believe that they're doing it, everyone just assumes they're literally creating it in reality. That makes sense. So, yeah, so I had made some statements earlier about, what was it? I believe in that, what's it called? The previous protagonist swap, that all the Spartans basically had like instinctive reflexes, that Kelly in the Halo Encyclopedia basically had even more instinctive reflexes than the other Spartans. This is consistently reiterated in the books as well, that Spartans just constantly move in a state of instinct. Their Mjolnir armor also moves without thought, and it moves before the conscious thoughts form into their head. This is actually one of the reasons that other like Marines and things can't move with it. Not just because it's too strong for their own bodies, but also because like they don't fit into the suit naturally. So Spartans need to train extensively to wear a suit like that just molds with the rest of their thoughts, and even they get a little uncomfortable by how quick it is. Meaning, just like Space Marines? No, because Space Marines don't just move before the thoughts move into their heads. I've heard this line of dialogue before. This is never stated in any of the books, that Space Marine armor, that the black carapace allows them to instinctively move. What the black carapace does is it connects to their bodies and allows them to move directly according to their nervous system decisions, but it does not move before thought. It moves with their existing thoughts. Also, their armor doesn't nearly have as much function. Yes, they do. No, they do not. You're incorrect. I've looked for those statements and I have not found them. Have you ever seen a purple orc? I think a few times. No, their modifications do that. That's not standard, though. Also, these statements are primarily referring to like just the Spartans in general. Like the Spartans are already instinctive, and then the armor just allows them to do things before the thoughts form into their minds. Space Marine Astartes armor doesn't do that. It just makes them do things that are more direct. Hang on. What was the statement I was referring to? Oh, here it is. Yeah. So basically, you just think about the armor, and then it just moves it as it exists. I was not able to bookmark this earlier. I could have, but unfortunately, I didn't, just because I thought I had enough examples with stuff from Silent Storm, but that one also had different statements, and I couldn't know where to find it after reading it like 4 times. Halsey basically just tells him to think, and then it just moves as he thinks. Yeah, part of it's connected to the neural input, but also it just works the way the Mjolnir does. Aimbot and instinctive reaction is a baseline for SM. No, that is incorrect. Space Marines do not have instinctive reaction as a baseline, nor do they have aimbot. They have to actively aim in the direction of things. Yeah, they're proficient at aiming at stuff. And like over time, like I'll grant you the benefit that like specific Space Marines, named Space Marines, could probably qualify for some forms of like higher reflexes and instinct, but your average Space Marine does not have that, and the armor does not passively grant them that. Not at all. Will the orcs not be able to see the Emperor's children if they were to encounter them? God, I've heard this argument so many times. I don't think that's how that works. I don't think people realize that's not how that works. That's never been presented consistently that way. This is like the same reasoning behind why like the orcs, because the orcs believe blue is lucky, that the Ultramarines will always beat them. It's like, it's just because the Ultramarines tactically prepare like more sound tactics. They just assume, oh, they're winning because they're lucky. Like they're not actually like lucky. They just have slightly better tactics than you. They are purple though. Stated multiple times that their movement is twitchy and snap to, not with the armor, but their actual selves. That's not really like, that's just more so like having enhanced reflexes. That's not having like instinctive reaction. Also, I'd be referring to like in the armor primarily. Mostly. Since Space Marines aren't often out of the armor most times, there are a few examples where they are, but it doesn't happen too often. At least, not usually by choice. Usually happens when they're cut out of it screaming. Because Space Marines do not like being detached from their armor. Not unless it's time to hit the bed. Or take a bath, I guess. I did provide a statement about the Mjolnir suit also having like an onboard computer for determining like firing patterns and velocities of like weapons. This is also something that it can do. So this comes from Oblivion. This is when John is basically on the planet Netheroth, and he's trying to dodge a bunch of like banshees, and his HUD, essentially his computer, just alerts him that he's essentially going to have to like dodge at this specific point. And his HUD also has like, I want to say, a calculator and other timers that he can set. There are several examples of this in the novel as well, where they just calculate like when he needs to move or dodge, or that a timer needs to be set, and it will just do these things whenever he thinks about doing them. He doesn't even need to request it; it will just happen. Because the Mjolnir armor is all about just being pretty efficient. So, yeah, that's just another example. I mentioned that the onboard computer would be a factor. Hello, Emulo. Space Wolves show this, Dark Angels show this, Black Templars show this, Out of Armor. I'd love to see those sources. Because it has been my experience that they do not show this consistently. Oh yeah. Then I also provided examples about why the warp would not actually work on. Technically, I was making the statement that the warp would not work on like anything outside of 40k that has a different type of soul, because it doesn't even work consistently on things in 40k that have the same type of soul. Because I was trying to explain, or different types of souls. Because I was trying to explain why chaos energy doesn't have passive side effects on people that have slightly different souls. Since I was using like the Necrons as an example. Because Necrons are obviously stated in like the guidebooks, the codexes, and whatnot to not have their souls. There are also statements that this is the most recent Warhammer 40k guide. Technically the first official guide, because the codexes are not actually proper guides, even though they basically function as guides. The Necrons are stated to be anathema to the warp. And this largely comes from the fact that they just don't have souls. Because the warp is actually just supposed to be made of Journey of the Fang. Every single Space Marine has to do it. Yeah, I'll check that out and see if what you're saying is accurate. Because there's nothing I love more than to research the space wolf. Little hint, hint. J Anarchy. I did not like going through the Space Wolves after reading the Horus Heresy. I'm very angry at the Space Wolves. I am superbly pissed off at them after the events of Prospero. So you understand my my lack of enthusiasm. I can understand the Dark Angels, but asking me to go through the Space Wolves is like asking me to punch a baby in the face. I'll do it if I have to, but I don't want to. Anyway, Necrons are described to be anathema to the warp because the way the warp is described, largely by, at least by some of the Chaos Space Marines, is that it's effectively the way he defines it in the Talons of Horus. Is that he explains that it's basically made out of ethereal ectoplasma, the fifth element. Call it what you will, we are speaking of the very material substance of souls. The warp is not a realm where souls go to dwell. It is a realm made entirely from soul matter. Souls do not exist within the warp. They are the warp. There are also additional statements in the Talons of Horus where he talks about the nature of souls and the warp. But the point is, the warp doesn't just have raw psychic energy and emotional energy. It is just made out of the stuff that makes up souls. And that would just be generic soul-esque matter. So if your soul works like a typical esque soul, you're going to get affected by the warp. The souls in Halo do not work like that. The souls in Halo are not made out of generic soul energy. They're made out of they're called essences and patterns. They're even called souls, technically. And they're basically they come from the domain, or at least they go to the domain after they die, and they basically become quantum informational constructs. They're not made out of like generic soul stuff or psychic energy or emotional energy. They're generally not like constructed of that kind of material. Let me see if I can grab some of these statements for the for thy domain. There's a few in here. Ah, here it is. Fantastic. Yeah, so the domain is basically referred to as a self-aware trans-dimensional knowledge reserve used by the forerunners of the precursors before them to document, transmit, and interpret all information and personal memory in their galaxy-spanning thing. The galaxy-spanning realm. It contains enormous volumes of information useful for daily life, but also held the entirety of recorded foreign history, including imprints and essences from their ancestors. It was essentially the mind and soul of their people, the sum of all they knew and had experienced. It's also referred to as a quantum. It's a quantum repository network by both Halsey and also information given by the Forerunners. But I believe the Forerunners don't really have the term quantum in their language, at least not that one. They call it something different. And anything that's also composed by the composer, which just turns you into basically data in essence, just gets sent to the domain. Also, this is from the Halo Encyclopedia, 22nd edition. I'm going to grab some of the stuff from Silentium as well, because there are additional statements there. Any questions? Well, hang on, where's the... There it is. They survived the planet while the modifications not fully set and they only have the modifications, no armor, no weapons. Trying to find the Fang after being dropped randomly on the planet. Oh, are you summarizing what happens in the novel? Okay. But you're talking about the scenario. I'm like, what Fang? What is this? I believe... Yeah, there's statements in the...
the statements in the Silentium novel about some of the characters is basically talking about the return to the domain, essentially going there to reacquaint with their ancestors, their honor, their history. There's additional statements in, I believe, Primordium as well. Yeah, by the way, this is from Silentium. There's additional statements in Primordium as well of the essences, essentially the mind and the essences of like patterns, souls. When the Lord of Admirals, the head of like ancient humanity, is essentially about to be composed. He refers to it as a composer of minds and souls. And then later, when he's about to be composed for this, the didact tells him, like, my finest opponent, the mantle accepts all who live fiercely, who defend their young and build and struggle and grow, even those dominate as humans have dominated, cruelly and without wisdom. But to all of us, there is a time like this where the domain seeks to confirm our essences, and for you, that time is now. Know this: the relentless enemy and killer of our children, Lord of Admirals, will soon face the enemy you have faced, and I can see the challenge coming to the forerunners, as do many others. We are afraid. So yeah, he does basically go on to tell him later that your ascendancy to the domain is going to happen like weirdly because you're technically getting composed. Because people who get composed they can go directly to the domain if they're being stored, or not if they're not being stored and they're being transmitted. But if they're set to be stored, they can actually be set inside of the composer, where their minds and their souls have basically just been digitized, and they essentially look like doomed souls from hell, but they're technically just made out of visual spectrums of data. So, yeah, I did say, like, there's stuff from the thing is the Space Wolf issue. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. I actually read the what is it? Not the Prospero Burns, yes, but also the Lehman Russ Primarch novel, and they elaborate on what the Fang is. I keep forgetting that they call their HQ the Fang. But essentially, because souls don't work the same way, because having a soul or even having a slightly different soul in Warhammer means that you're not going to be affected by the warp. Get fucked, 1,000 Suns. No, the 1,000 Suns were not in the wrong for just existing and being sorcerers. I could never get behind the genociders that are the Space Wolves. But in all honesty, the way the souls work in Warhammer is entirely down to just soul essence, soul material stuff. Pariahs, the Tau, and the Necrons basically prove that having a slightly different soul, not having a soul, or having something in the place of a soul that's different means that you cannot be affected by the warp meaningfully, at least in the passive way that people argue, if your soul works differently. If you don't have a soul at all, like Necrons, you're just not affected by the warp. In like an indirect sense. The warp cannot speak to you, it cannot mess with your mind. It has to directly start warping reality around you. Like, it has to directly be on top of you and hitting you with massive amounts of warp energy to do anything at all to you, because it cannot touch your mind and your soul, since there is no flame in the warp. Bro, he opened a warp gate on Terra. We're talking about Magnus or the 1,000 Suns? Because that's a bit different. Also, Magnus was trying to warn him about Horus. And that would have been avoided if the Emperor had just communicated to him on how to use the webway when Magnus admitted that he found the webway. And the Emperor told him, like, yeah, I'm actually working on a project. And Magnus offered his help. And he told him, no, also don't look into the webway. Which is like one of the worst decisions you could have ever made as a guy that knows what Magnus's what Magnus's faults are, which Magnus, for the most part, has an innate ability to understand things that he sees, and he has a massive curiosity for knowledge. So you can't just stick something in front of him that's inherently interesting and say, don't look into it. You need to actually give him a good reason, other than just like, heed my warning. Like, fuck out of here. Oh, you think you know the Thousand Suns? Navy every Thousand Sun. Fuck you. We're not doing this again, Ezio. Also, it's Horus's fault he intercepted the message to Rush that was not capture, not kill. So I know that's actually stated in the first couple novels. I've read them a few times, and I know that's mentioned. But when I got to Prospero Burns, for some reason they don't ever bring up the message from Horus. I know it's in there, like I know what we're referring to, Jay, and I was actually waiting for it when I read the novel, and they don't bring it up. It's the weirdest thing. Like they don't bring up that Horus gave them a knowledge, gave them like knowledge, gave them a message that was like, by the way, Magnus is too dangerous. He can't leave Prospero. Like they never mention it. They just open fire. It's like the message never even existed. I was very confused. I'm assuming it happens like off panel, technically, because it's never covered in the novel at all, even though we know it's happening during that time because it's mentioned in I believe it's either False Gods or Galaxy in Flames. So it's no. So I'm not talking about that part. I'm talking about the fact that like the message never gets talked about. Like we never, if you read Prospero Burns, right? Like if you were reading A Thousand Suns and Prospero Burns, which are the two novels that cover the burning of Prospero, and you were trying to figure out how this event went down, and you knew about the message, right? You knew that Lehman Russ was sent a message by Horus or by someone. Didn't know it was Horus. Didn't know they were a traitor. You would be expecting to see that, right? It never pops up. Wasn't the messenger killed by Horus later? I wouldn't be surprised if he was. I'm just saying the message never pops up. Like we never get a scene where Lehman Russ is like, I understand. This message was sent by like, I don't know, someone with like the Emperor's like sigil or something. Like he never mentions getting a message at all. It's like it never even happened. Like it doesn't show up at all in the novel, which is why I was so confused. If he got it and was like, "Oh, it came from Horus. Oh, I have to take out Magnus. I don't want to do this, but it's the War Master's orders." Then that would have made sense. He didn't realize Horus was a traitor at the time. Think it would need to. I don't think anyone cared. No. None of them cared. The Space Wolves didn't care at all. Like they didn't want to spare the Thousand Suns. They were looking for an excuse. That was my point. I'm just saying the message doesn't show up in the scenes. Anyway, where were we? Oh yes, we're talking about souls. My bad. I got sidetracked. I'll try not to do that. So basically, the souls in Halo don't work even like the same as the Necron souls. They don't even work like the Tau souls, where Tau souls are just normal souls. They just burn slightly brighter or slightly less bright because they have less of a presence of the warp. And as such, Chaos Demons have a very difficult time finding Tau unless they're like actively trying to look for them and they have like a specific piece of technology or some abilities. Pariahs basically can't be found at all by demons willfully because in their place in the warp, there is like a void that essentially eats where their soul would be. Because they don't have a soul as people understand it. So Chaos Demons can't naturally find pariahs. So not having a soul or having the soul that has something completely different there, or even just not having a soul but having something that is taking the place of a soul is enough for demons to just not affect you with the warp consistently. And I'd say that humans are a lot closer to something between like a pariah and a Necron in Warhammer. Or not Warhammer, Halo, because their souls aren't made of the essence of like soul matter. They're made of quantum informational composites. So if they looked at a Spartan or any human from Halo, they wouldn't see a flicker in the warp. They would see nothing. There'd be nothing there. It'd be like looking at a Necron. Yeah, this could have been an email deal. No. It's not that it could have been like I agree with you. It could have been. I'm just saying I never see the message. Like there should have been a scene with a messenger in Prospero Burns. They covered everything prior to that. Meanwhile, the Thousand Suns were fucking up and had to be carried by the Thousand. Fucking them up and had to be carried by the Sisters of Silence. Never hated females as much as I did in fiction. This is that I'm joking. Yeah, I was gonna say that if you read Prospero Burns, that they are fucking up the Space Wolves something fierce until the Custodies and the Sisters of Silence get in there. They are destroying them. Then they're like, wait a minute, I forgot that they're sorcerers. We have to murder them because they're sorcerers. Wait a minute, guys. Actually, they're sorcerers. We fucked up. Where's the anti-meta? Get them. I just thought that was kind of funny when I read that. I was like, yeah, the Space Wolves were dying to the guys with like magic powers. Who would have guessed? Well, the Space Wolves don't really rely on like specific tactics. They're not like the Ultramarines or the Imperial Fists or the Dark Angels, where they're like, yes, we need to think and like act. The Space Wolves are like, no, we need to charge straight at the enemy and then maybe take their weapons, which is pretty kind of base. Like, I like the fact that they take enemy weapons and use them against them, but like, man, the fact that they're like, we need to LARP as brutes. we need to trick people into believing we're savages by acting savagely and then doing nothing different than what a savage would do. They say that Magnus is the best intro fight ever in that series. In his Primarch novel or in Prospero Burns? Or in Prospero Burns. In his Primarch novel, like the Master of Prospero, or the Thousand Sons novel? Which one? Because he has good entries in both of them. So I have no idea. When he cage matches Rush, oh yeah, I think he jumps off like a building and he's like square off. I think he says something different. I don't remember what it is, but he like jumps off the building and is like, "It's time to throw down, Russ." Yeah, Russ was like, "I'm gonna break your back." Oh yeah, I didn't get to show you the what's it called? I think it was the last of the scans I had for now, but I'll show you this one. This is the one I'm talking about when I'm referring to the souls in 40K. So this, I believe this is one of the Thousand Sons basically narrating them. This is the one I read earlier when I talked about like ethereal ectoplasm being the fifth element, the nature of souls. He actually gives a lot of, like, if you really want to learn about stuff in the warp, I think The Talons of Horus is a fantastic novel to do that, though it is kind of sad, but interesting in its own little way. There's a lot of lore dumps information on that. Makes a firestorm, thunderstorm, makes a cage of lightning. Oh yes, I remember the cage of lightning, where he traps them in and just has like a 1v1 with them. I think that's like so Rip Sword out those with a 1v1. Yeah, and then he did get his back broken. So I think Lehman Russ does win the fight. That's all I have for scans today. If you guys want to chat a little more until Zen gets back, that's fine. But I think that's all I have at the moment. Honestly, like as far as Primarch fights, currently, I've only seen, I want to say 3 or 4. I've seen the fight between Fulgrim and Ferris. Ferris Manus. I have seen the fight between Lehman Russ and Magnus the Red. I have seen the fight between Lehman Russ and Lionel Johnson. And then I believe there's one more I've seen. Okay, if you want to count Korax running up on Lorgar as a fight, then I guess that technically counts. But I don't think that counts. Because Korax fucking ran him over. Dude is like, Lorgar was like, wait a minute, you're supposed to be dead. It's like, and now I'm not. That was your mistake. Freighter. Man got saved by his wolves. Driving for someone who thought he could beat every single Primarch except for Sanguinius. Yeah, I forgot about that. He thought he could beat every single Primarch. He conveniently forgets to talk about Lionel Johnson, who basically laid him out. Bro, I love when he was asked that question. He was like, "Yeah, I could beat all of them." And it's like, "Didn't you lose to Lionel Johnson?" It's like, "Nope." Lionel who? I don't remember that. I think Halo kind of cares too much, cares about the power scaling too much. They seem way too descriptive more than the actual story being good. The story in Halo is fine. Most of those things that I mentioned from the forwarder novels, like those are some of the best stories ever presented. It's just that like most Halo fans, most people that know about Halo don't actually read the books. Because the best, and Jay, I think you'll agree with me on this, is, well, I think this kind of to be expected. The best stories in Warhammer are also from the books. No one's going to go to Warhammer for good stories from the games. No one's going to do that. No one's going to go there, or even from like the codex. Everybody is going to go to the books. It's so it's a problem with the fact that mediums have always been written to be like good mediums have always been literature because that is the original way that we have told stories. Once we evolved from the level of just telling them around a campfire, we put pen to paper, and that's always been the most effective way of doing it. Yeah, there's some times where there's a bit of an exception. Like I think there are novels, most novels in Halo are pretty good, but there are plenty of novels in the original series that are kind of mid. I actually think that in Eric Nolan's original Halo writing, he didn't actually learn how to write a good Halo novel until Ghosts of Onyx. I think Ghosts of Onyx was a solid novel. I think he figured out how to do the pacing correctly. And then there were some other novels like Contact Harvest that were pretty good. And then Call Protocol, I still think is the worst novel I've ever written in the Halo series. It's or not written, read. It is the worst novel. It's so bad. Need to read about the Stormlord? Yes. I actually so there aren't many novels in 40k that I've read that are bad either because I tend to you tend to find this out the more you read. Most novels are pretty well written. You usually have to go looking for a bad novel, or you have to look for something that is super overhyped and then turns out to be disappointing. Because even Prospero Burns, which I didn't find to be that interesting, got really interesting around the events of Prospero and the events leading up to Prospero, like the Council of Nicaea. That made going through that event worth it. That and Prospero Burns provides a second point of view from the opposite side of the Thousand Suns novel. It gives you more perspective that makes it more valuable. It really fleshes out certain things about the character. So even if you're not interested in Prospero Burns, it technically doesn't matter because it piggybacks off of other novels. So you get to be rewarded for reading those novels. You get that sense of continuity. Right? Some novels don't really do a good job of doing that. Like, if you've read the first Ultramarines Omnibus, about 30-ish out of the 50, the Horus Heresy era, yeah, I'm reading them as in a select order. I've skipped a few of them because some of them are kind of like filler. Like, I'm going to go back and read them later, but I'm going to read certain plot points around the Primarchs all the way up to the Siege of Terra. And then when I'm done with that plot points, I'll go back and read the other ones. So, like, next ones I'm planning on reading, since I just finished Fear to Tread with Sanguinius. I love that novel. It was great. I'm going to be reading Vulcan and Corax's Primarch novels, or not Corax's, Vulcan and Conrad Kurz's Primarch novels. And then I'm going to read Vulcan's time and his imprisonment after the events of the Drop Site Massacre. Yeah, filler is good for feats and in-depth stuff. It can be, yeah. But it also, sometimes it focuses on the mundane stuff, and it really depends on what you're interested in. Like, I think one of them, it's either not the first Heretic or something. It's one of the first 16 novels that talks about what's happening in the Imperial Palace right up until the point where Magnus busts in, and it explains what the Emperor is doing during the initial stages of the heresy. Mortarius is my favorite. But do you mean Mortarius or Mortarian? Because I don't know if Mortarius is actually a novel. Oh. Death Guard is my favorite. Oh, okay. Yes. So Mortarion. I was like, Mortarius, is that a novel about Mortarion? Sounds like a great way to. Yeah, Death Guard are interesting. I still believe Death Guard is arguably like the strongest Chaos Space Marine faction out there in terms of just versatility and effectiveness, because they're the only ones that actually got a buff that mattered because they got Nurgle's sickness. All the rest of them are like, I'm either down bad, covered in spikes, or slightly different weapons. And the Death Guard is like, I'm disgusting, but I'm also like biologically immortal, and I spread like every plague known to mankind. Raven Guard on top. Raven Guard is pretty good, but they're not a Chaos Legion. Did you guys have any other questions while I'm here? I'm just going to be putting my books away, so don't mind me. I have about two more of these, what do we call it? Two more of these summaries that I'll be doing. Two more of these like streams. Because I have two more videos left to do. I think I'm planning on recording one this weekend with Zim. So we'll get, the next one we'll be getting will be probably Space Marine 1, or no, Space Marine 2 cast in Halo 5 Guardians, and then the fourth one will be Halo 5 Guardians cast in Space Marine 2. Let me put that down there. Fantastic. Considering I'm plagued with chronic condition, I feel a relatability to them. Really? That's unfortunate. Also, yes, that can be very relatable. I've had some people mention to me before that they've definitely preferred certain Space Marine legions over the other because they feel like there is some kind of relatability to them. There is a lot of overlap with what they think and feel, and it's easier to put themselves in that position when they have someone that genuinely reflects their views. And some Space Marine legions do a better job of that than others. I think the most common one is probably the Ultramarines, because the Ultramarines basically represent like what a person wants a Space Marine to be morally and ethically. And then for other ones, it's more about like pragmatism. Like Alpha Legion is probably like one of my favorite ones, because I like the subterfuge and I like the pragmatism of what they're about. They're very similar to the Dark Angels, and they're modeled in very much the same way that the Dark Angels are. They're like kind of like a parallel to them. But the way they go about it is probably like a lot more efficient. My cheeks look like Deadpool? Oh boy. Are you okay? Are you okay? Good sir, do you need a doctor? That sounds like a not very healthy thing to have. Do you need to be saved? Does someone need to call you an ambulance? Ugh. So many books. So many guides. Also, when I get to the Siege of Terra, I am buying the physical copies of the Siege of Terra, because Siege of Terra is actually affordable. I will buy every single one of those novels. I just wish there was like an omnibus for them so I could get them all together. Unfortunately, fate has not given me a very helping hand. Either I'm down dubious monster, or I'm covered in red liquid, or I smell like shit. Mine of the Raven Guard. I'm not escaping the allegations. I think. Listen, I don't think the Raven Guard has all those things. You might be describing I'm gonna say the Red Angels. You might be describing the Blood Angels. There's a constant pain, and I see a specialist. Oh. That is unfortunate. I'm sorry to hear that. At least they don't cost $500. Actually, some of them do. Well, okay, not the Siege of Terra. I mean, like other books. No, the Siege of Terra is like if I were to look right now, Well, there's also like free PDFs that you can find of them, but like my general rule of buying books, especially for a series, is that if you can affordably get it, go support the official release in the secondary market or the private market. Go do it because that promotes that always leads to the possibility of like a more effective way of the series being promoted and marketed, especially being reprinted. Also, because like I just think it's like a good idea to get your hands on the physical media to actually have the physical book so that you can read at a pace that you want. Unless digital is like exclusively your thing, then you can. I believe Warhammer has digital copies and a lot of audiobooks that are actually very affordable.
Well,
A lot of people prefer to
what
do
happened here?
audiobook. What happened here?
Well, I'm seeing Jay
Um,
over there talking about his condition, and you're over here talking
uh, he
about
was
his.
explaining about his favorite Space Marine faction, and he said he relates to them, and I was like, "Oh, that's interesting." He's like, "Well, it's because like my cheeks look like Deadpool, and I'm in constant pain." And I'm like, "That sounds very unhealthy." I was asking him if he's okay.
That's why it's a constant, apparently.
That 2 months I disappeared, I went temporarily blind. What the fuck? You went blind? My goodness, that pain must be enormous.
I feel like it. I feel like if that's going on, like, did they already diagnose you with what you have? Like, do you
It
know it?
seems like they did. I
Because
was
I'm
gonna
about
say,
to
do
say,
you have medicine? Do you have
yeah,
medicine for that?
if you're going temporarily blind, that's an issue.
Bro, you shouldn't be able to. Like, do you understand how much pain a person has to be to go the temporary blindness? I'm not saying you're not having it. I'm saying like you should have medicine at this point. That is not normal. It's like getting skull fucked by a cactus. Now I know you've seen Deadpool. I'm pretty sure he almost says that word for word, but yeah, I do. You do have medicine. Okay, good.
Have HS.
Both of my favorite chapters. Having the Blood Angels up there with the Raven Guard, heresy.
Blood Angels are the best faction. 1000%.
Mm. Let me see if I can find.
Oh, so that's what happened.
Yes.
No, I take pills, ointments, and injections. Damn, that sucks, man. No, because I don't know if you were here. Someone on the Discord said that like Dragon Ball Daima did something crazy with Vegeta, and I was like, okay, well let's see what it is. And now I know what it is. You get through all your scans, Mangler?
Yeah. I'm just trying to explain to them what the some of the buying options were for the Siege of Terra, because I was trying to explain that the Siege of Terra is actually a lot cheaper than most of the Horus Heresy. Yeah, most of these are since a lot of them came out in the last few years, they're only like $9.99, like paperback. So you could probably get most of the Horus Heresy for like, or not Horus Heresy, all like I want to say like 10, 13 books, including the End and the Deaths volumes one through three, for under $120, which is like $10 a novel. That's pretty good if you're willing to pay for it like over time. As a person who's bought like a lot of books, $10 is a good medium range. A good low is like 6 or 7. Highest you want to go is ever is like usually like 15. Zim mod playthrough win? Yeah, Zim. When you're modding that playthrough of, I don't know what you're modding actually. I
Yeah,
have no idea what he's.
it's cause Jay did some mods for DMC5, and I played a little bit of them, and like I played them on stream, but I haven't gone through a whole playthrough of the game with his mods yet.
Terrible. He requested it. You even committed to it, but you didn't finish.
It's all downloaded on my PC. Like everything's still there. I just haven't decided like when to just boot it up and play DMC5.
Jay, do you hear this? You're over here putting up with this blindness, and he's over here like, "Oh, I gotta install a few mods. Can't do it, bro." You
That's
should have just been like, I recovered from blindness for this." No, terrible. Should have guilt tripped him. Heretic. Yeah, that's right. Shame on you. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry, what were we saying?
no, yeah, that's why heretic. Zim, we need more rival streams. So I know several downloaded rivals. Me and you were playing rivals last night. I feel a little bad because last night Kyle was streaming, and I told Kyle that I would join him in a few minutes because I was a VC when you hit about rivals to see if he could play it and stuff. And Kyle stopped streaming like after 10 minutes, and I felt so bad because I'm like, ah, that's probably because no one was there because it was Metal Gear. Damn it, I should have been there. Now I feel bad.
Oh no, you stole his viewership. How dare you?
I honestly don't like trauma dumping, but I do explain situations so I wouldn't guilt trip him. It wouldn't work anyways.
You're assuming he cares for the blind. He does
So
not.
listen. If you guys aren't on your deathbed, you probably can't trauma dump me.
This
Motherfuckers,
man was never a Daredevil fan.
motherfucker's gonna walk out. Fucking someone's gonna show up like that one guy in SpongeBob. Every morning I break my arms, and every afternoon I break my legs. My bones were made of glass, and my skin shreds like paper. I don't give a fuck. You dead? No? Then you
No,
keep going.
that was. I always loved that scene so much. It's just so ridiculous. It's like every morning? Damn. You must have the fastest healing factor I've ever heard of.
No, obviously that sucks that happens to you, Jay, and stuff like that, but like, I don't know. It's gotten to the point where I've become so callous towards people's issues, and I know it's kind of like not my fault per se, but more so like just people sucking in general, where I'm just kind of like, I really don't give a fuck. If you're not dead or dying, like, I know it sucks, but like, it's just life. Although I do feel bad for your condition. It, I'm not saying I've lost my religion, but definitely it's one of those things where I'm like, if there is a God out there, I really want to know the explanation for why so many people are born with such fucked up hands. Stuff like that, you know? Just be nice.
So he can make interesting pool bets with his buddies. That's why.
Okay, I'm used to it. Lol. Porn amp Zam versus Source amped Mangler. Guys, I'm wholesome. Come on now. Obviously, I would win with or without porn. For I'm the wholesome one.
I don't know. Depends on my sources.
But yeah. Okay. So what is the deal with Dragon Ball Daima? It's before Super or like during Super?
I'm pretty sure it's a completely separate timeline because they
No.
retcon so much stuff.
No. It's supposed to be connected to Super, right?
No, it never even references Super. If they connected to Super by the end of it, I'd be surprised. But at the point in time where it's happening, if it was in the same timeline as Super, it would be before the events of Battle of Gods. But then that raises some weird questions. My lore is sick as fuck now.
That's good.
In more way than one.
I dare you.
Or it's
Oh
my day to
yes.
day. I'm used to it. This man's body's got to be made of like. Well, actually, if you had kids, I wonder if they just have like an evolved version of your. Would they just have like a? They'd be like a second generation like sickness. Would they be like that guy? Well, it's that guy from like Marvel Imperfects, like Toxin. They'd just be
Yeah.
using their disabilities as a weapon. It's genetic. Oh, well, wait. If it's genetic, you're saying this has happened more than once?
Yeah. Okay. No.
What
Dragon Ball Daima is canon to Super.
source?
Uh,
I would actually like the sword.
I'm looking for an actual source, but it looks like a lot of people are saying because Toriyama worked on it, but it's saying is indeed canon.
Toriyama worked on GT. Hate to be that bearer of bad news. But I wouldn't be surprised if he put all of his eggs in one basket, especially before he died.
Okay, Dragon
Rest
Ball
in peace.
Daima guidebooks canon confirmation. What the heck? Oh no. Okay. Uh,
I heal really fucking fast to the point where my body hurts itself. Man is literally Deadpool.
hang on. Eh,
Anyway, apparently Tracer jumps through time with her blinks, allegedly. Pretty sure she just like reverts to the previous point, right?
Yeah, that's how the blinks work. It's more time manipulation.
That's what it feels like in game when I get camped to death.
Okay, well, it looks like uh, I'm gonna have to look into this more, but it looks like a lot of people are saying yes. I'm not sure. I've got cut to the bone on my finger and it
Hmm.
healed in a few hours.
Oh, I mean,
Uh,
nice, but oh,
incorrectly, but still healed. Wait, so are you one of those guys whose fucking like white blood cells kills yourself? Is that your position? Are you one of those people, or are you a little different?
I think you're referring to. Isn't that sickle cell anemia, or is
Um,
that
no,
that's
sickle
something
cell
else?
anemia is when your red blood cells have issues.
Wrong
So
one.
yeah, no. So there's a disease where your white blood cells are overactive and they keep thinking your body is something they have to destroy to protect itself. So they
Yes,
can't just
they think you're constantly under attack. So as a result, your wounds
my
typically
cells are
heal faster because
hyperactive.
they destroy.
Okay, yeah, so it's something like that. That's what I figured when you mentioned the healing thing. Because if you're healing that fast, that means your cells have to be like hyperactive. Oh, so
Your
that
white
means
blood cells. Your white blood cells do not believe in a day off.
no, so that means you take sedatives, don't you? No, sedatives wouldn't be enough. That's a mental thing. Yeah, because a lot of the times when cells are hyperactive, what they'll do is they'll like fucking just like try and stop like the blood type or the cells steroids. Interesting. Steroids are so fucking weird as a concept because like they basically do everything. Hey, something wrong with your body? Steroids. Hey, your leg broken? Steroids. Hey, your arm not bending properly? Steroids.
Well, I mean,
I don't even know
as
what
weird as
steroids
it is,
are.
like,
I just know that every time something's physically wrong with you, your doctor just fucking throws a needle from the local fucking gym at you.
well, that's because almost everything in your body is determined pretty much by chemicals
Yeah.
and like joules of energy. So if you shoot something up in someone's body that has like a lot of energy, a lot of extra muscle strength, whatever pain they're going to be dealing with is probably not going to be there as much because
Yeah,
their pain tolerance is going to be higher, their muscle strength is going to be better.
yeah, no, I mean, I guess that's why, but like, it's just always so funny to me that if there's anything physically wrong with your body, the first solution is to shoot you up with steroids.
It
Steroids
does
don't
sound
work,
pretty
you have a
silly.
problem.
Doctor, I need steroids. The steroids don't work. What do we do?
Yeah, and more steroids. It's kind of like one of those end all be all things. But yeah, no, no. I was just asking about Daima because apparently Vegeta does get a new form. So that's kind if Jay is Deadpool, then I'm Moon Knight.
Yes.
So you're a nut job.
Are you suffering from dissociative identity disorder? Is that what you're saying? Because technically, like Moon Knight isn't just like a normal dude. Like he does actually have a disorder that allows him to take on like multiple personas. Because he has multiple personalities trapped in one body.
No, just high pain
No, just high
tolerance.
pain. Bro, that's like every superhero. I don't think there's a single superhero that doesn't have like high pain tolerance, or at least higher than average.
I thought I was a super soldier in high school because I was strong and fast as hell. But when I turned 25, I turned into Freddy Krueger. Yes, I have MPD. What the fuck does that mean?
Multiple personality disorder. I was actually referring to Ezio.
I was like, what is MPD on a physical level? I've never heard of that.
Well, to be fair, it's technically not physical. It's cognitive. Well, actually
No,
mental,
no,
if you
no,
want to
no,
be
no,
like
no, no.
really
That's
semantic.
fine. That's why when he said I have MPD and he's talking about his body, I was like, what the fuck is MPD in reference to your physical body? But yeah.
Hmm. I think I've provided all my scans, so
All right.
we can chill for a little bit, or we can end the stream whenever you're ready.
No, I was gonna say yeah. So I was gonna tell you when I showed up that you had like an hour left, but when I came in, it looked like you guys had already finished all of your scan shenanigans.
I didn't have nearly as many because I just did like any of the stuff I repeated. I would have just retread over the same scans.
If you think about it, Desmond has Zimley as usual. So yeah, because I do things in the morning. That's why I kind of leave Mangler do his own. Now, granted, I should have later today than usual because I had to take care of some things on my tablet. But I healed from a 3 inch
I
piece of
was
wood
late.
in my leg.
I was late as well. So
No, so don't get enough sleep last night. I don't get good sleep. I did not get good sleep. So I'm like, okay, Mangler. I told Mangler 11, so I'll tell him like I can get him up right now, and then I can go back to sleep for a little bit. And then Mangler's like, all right, this should only take a few minutes for me to get all my scans. So 40 minutes later, I'm just like, all right, so sleep is just isn't an option for me anymore. Understood?
did you go back to sleep, or
I
did
did not.
you
I did not. I went to go use the restroom, and then I went to go take care of some things on my tablet.
now go to sleep after this call?
It's too late. I have work in an hour.
Oh my god.
Brain starts to eat itself with the lesser sleep you get, apparently. Yeah, that's why that's why they tell you that you should get like a full night's rest because not getting a complete night's sleep is always going to screw you over. But the problem is that like what defines a complete night's sleep? Is it your body waking up on its own or is it when you feel rested? Because I didn't wake up off the alarm. I woke up because my body's like get the fuck up.
Generally, a proper amount of sleep. Usually,
Say it.
I,
But
I did.
but you did not give a number.
Oh, well, it depends on what age you are. If you're a kid, probably like 8 to 10 hours. Elderly, 8 to 10 hours. Most people from their like mid high 20s up to like I want to say early 60s, usually about 6 to 8 hours. 6 hours is when you crack the three sleep cycles and you feel pretty good. That's why a lot of people like 6 hours of sleep because they can just end that. And if they're not too tired before they go to bed, they're properly relaxed. They will be well rested when they wake up,
If
or
I
good
remember
enough.
if I remember correctly, I went to sleep like at 4:30 and I think I woke up like at 9 or 10, which is a decent number of sleep. It's just that I don't know, for some reason I haven't been getting good sleep recently. When I go to the doctor next week, I'll probably ask them if they're like maybe it's because I pushed too hard when I used the restroom. Team
I
Sky's
mean,
here. Hmm?
are you in pain when you're sleeping?
No, I just wake up and like I'm just like, it's like I have no issue while sleeping. It's just that I can wake up and I'm like, I feel tired as shit, or I feel weird. Like my sleep cycle, like I'm not, like I haven't fully recovered, is what it feels like. Oh, hello, social break. Haven't, I do not remember you. Sorry.
He's been here before. He's one of the other servers I'm in. He shows
Oh,
up occasionally. Just not under that name. I think this might be like a his other account. I don't remember.
if you think about it, Desmond has multiple personality disorder because he's been multiple people, probably. Actually, no, that was actually the biggest threat in Assassin's Creed is you lose yourself in the Animus, but you also lose yourself to the memories of your ancestors. So you end up morphing into three different people, basically.
You become an enigma.
Yeah. No, as long as you sleep, I'm actually social. I see.
Aw.
No, yeah. As
So I'm
long
not talking to sponsor who is social this time. who
As
is
long as he
actually
gets sleep,
sponsored.
he'll be fine. But yeah, sometimes you don't get enough sleep or your sleep isn't quite up to par. Usually it's fine. That's why I don't really like mind it right now, but every now and again I get some like bum sleep days.
Mm,
Veteran is
yes.
God. No, I've been hearing about that.
Yes. I've accused him many times of imposter syndrome, and
Mainly
he
you get
laughs at me.
mainly you get sponsors. Apparently Mangler gets sponsors.
That's no, that's not what I mean. The
Apparently
guy's name is sponsored. I don't get sponsors.
say apparently Mangler gets more sponsors than I do because I get no sponsors. So, I mean,
Sponsor's not even a real sponsor.
apparently you can just sign up for freaking like certain like deals for like some burn children, debatable. Cause like apparently, cause I don't know if you heard about the whole Honey situation going on where like Honey steals commissions from creators.
Honey,
Yes, you know the browsing app Honey, the one that gives you free coupons. Apparently there's like a whole scandal with it.
I have not actually heard about that app, but do continue.
That's my sponsor, by the way. Forgot we used to pay him for talking to VC. Damn, mainly got paid to talk to VC. It's crazy. But no, yeah, because
What is this slander?
apparently when Honey checks coupons, Honey will replace affiliate links with its own browser to make money.
Huh? And is that
So
like? I'm assuming
so
that's not legal.
well, actually, I don't know if it's illegal. I'm pretty sure it is, but I also feel like if it is, we would be hearing more about it. No, so basically, like, if let's say I recommend you guys to like, let's say NordVPN as an example, because everyone fucking has a NordVPN advertisement or fucking like thing these days. If you guys were to click on that link from my video and then use Honey at NordVPN, Honey gets the commission for the sale instead of me. So I wouldn't get any money from that link. Honey would get it instead. Does anyone talk about Honey, you capitalist? Damn. Damn, he's right. I am a capitalist. Mr. Beast is keeping the allegations this time. Honey has nothing to do with Mr. Beast technically. So everyone talked about Honey. Like the only guy I think who didn't talk about Honey was like Markiplier as a big name in YouTube. And I don't know if you guys have ever seen the Honey rant Markiplier had. Is when Zim does it. Oh snap! 360 all scope. How embarrassing. So yeah, Pimp Demon, I'll try and buy the ISBNs this week so that way I can publish the book and that way you can tell me how it wasn't worth it. And I will try to do better next time. Mark is still the GOAT. Yeah, Markiplier's just he's pretty chill. I'm waiting on CoffeeZilla to make his video about it. I don't know. I think CoffeeZilla recently got done making his Steam video where he like talks down to Steam about gambling. I don't know. I'm gonna keep it a buck with you guys. I don't necessarily think like I understand that people have issues, but at the same time it's like guys just don't spend the fucking money.
This all about how honey is very bad. I
Yeah,
got disconnected.
yeah. So yes, I covered the honey situation and Markiplier, had a little rant about it. Zim, what percent you get from members? When you guys give me memberships, I get all of it minus taxes. YouTube's actually pretty good about that, but I don't get paid a lot, and I also don't make enough videos to make consistent money on YouTube.
Which is nothing. So
Oh yeah,
you
I
get
feel I
he gets 100% of nothing.
I think technically with 'cause I think I still have 5 members. I think I make like $15 a month, but I don't get paid out until I get hundreds. It's very
So you don't get paid until the very end of the year.
So, well, that depends. That depends. Because if I make videos that get ads, sometimes that number shoots up quite a bit. And if I have different paying members, that number shoots up quite a bit. But yeah, no, for the most part, I usually don't get paid. Technically, I think I make like $20 on YouTube every month. No, it's less. I think it is closer to 10. If it's like 10 or 15, I get paid like every 6 months off YouTube, assuming I don't make videos that do well. is usually the case. I think loot boxes in video games are fine as long as you don't just market them or make them a slot machine like CS. No, because some other guy made a video talking about gotcha games recently, and he's all like, even though I know how bad gotcha games are for me, I still spend money on gotcha games. Okay, how about you just be free to play like a fuck ton of other players are when it comes to gotcha games? Like, he brings up Star Rail as an example, and I'm like, bro, I play Star Rail free to play. It's fine. Do I think I should spend some money? Yeah, but like I don't care. Because I'm gonna suffer from my downgrade to tier member options. I have. Have you tried to market your channel? No, I haven't, but like I'm not really in a place to market this channel because it's a power scaling channel and I talk about the most obscure fucking series. I've saying CSO gambling is addicting. Don't know how much I've placed in it, however. I only spend money on battle passes. Look, I'm gonna tell you guys right now. Unless you're guaranteed to get the item or you have some spare cash on the side that you just like is burning a hole in your pocket, don't fucking spend money on fucking loot boxes. Don't do that to yourself. Just spend the money for the fucking skin. It's it's more worthwhile to guarantee the product you want rather than spending monies on a random chance. That's become mainstream nowadays. I'm just a gambling addict. That's fine. Damn, the last prize game video you did, I paid for you, goof. It's that on black. Damn. No, 50 man.
Mm.
No. I understand that like this last year, I haven't released as much videos as I should be. I'm gonna try and release like one edited good video a year. $10 for the amount of stuff you get in the battle passes is the least brain dead. Yeah. Oh, if you're gonna spend money on gotcha games or fucking battle royale games and stuff like that, always get the battle pass if you want to spend money. Don't get anything else unless it's guaranteed to unless you're guaranteed to get it. Loot boxes and stuff like that are fucking stupid. Don't waste your fucking money on them. If you're playing a gotcha game, just be free to play or buy the monthly passes. The monthly passes are usually like $5 and they give you like 3,000 premium currency over the course of 30 days, which I mean just be fucking patient. Like damn. I understand that not everyone has like the willpower to not spend money, but like for fuck's sake, guys, like you guys are fucking burying yourselves in debt over fucking pixels when you could just wait like 3 months for the rerun. Like fuck off, dude. Sorry. Off on a tangent there. Um, Nikke is honestly the best with gacha. No, it was not Brahmia. Never forget. But yeah. Um. Yeah. Okay. So let me see here. Is there anything else? 31st is New Year's. Um. Are you guys going on New Year's Eve stream? I'll have to check if I work New Year's. We can probably do New Year's Eve stream. Ezio's asking Mangler if you want to play after the stream.
Yeah, for a little bit probably. Then I gotta go.
All right. Then with that, we'll probably go ahead and call it here. I don't think there'll be a stream up tonight. There should be a stream up tomorrow with Kyle, and that is in the Fallout videos. The only skin video made this year, and it was in January 1st. No, I made it. No, the first video wasn't the only power scaling video I made this year. Was shit. That might have been the only video. Huh. Whack. But all right. Yeah, that's a lot less than I thought it was. I thought it was like 3 or 4, but yeah, no, I had a busy year. Yeah, it was the best. It was the best ever things. Maybe the high frequency blade. Oh no, yeah, I'll say I made the high frequency blade video. I won't be able to attend any of them streams after the 6th, so rip. Damn, Ezio, you leaving the channel for a bit. Can't say I'll be there in New Year's stream, but sponsor will be there. I see. Damn, Ezio's got a different time schedule now. Damn. All
Oh,
right.
I was muted. I was gonna say he has abandoned you.
Well, I was gonna say the streams are usually at night, so a lot of people can't make it to nighttime streams. If I end up doing solo streams later on, which I probably will have to pick those up at some point, I might have to do them during the day just to give other people a chance to show up during streams. But yeah, so all right, I think that's about it. So with that said, if I don't see you guys for New Year's or New Year's Eve, thank you guys for your time as always. Have a nice day and have a happy New Year's and New Year's Eve. Take care, everybody.